What's up, friends? I'm Jonathan Miller, and welcome back to Jonathan Miller Music, where we help each other become better artists. Right on the heels of Cruel Summer hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and still having the #1 film with the Eras Tour in the US, Taylor Swift has finally dropped her highly anticipated re-record 1989 Taylor's Version. If you're new to the series, today we're going through the album track by track, and I'll be sharing my thoughts on its lyrics, genres and influences, productions, and how it compares to the original to see how it all breaks down and comes together. So if you like what you see, subscribe for more Taylor Swift content, leave a like, and comment telling me your thoughts or what your favorite vault song is. 1989 and Reputation are my favorite Taylor Swift albums, and being able to go live on TikTok to hear 1989 Taylor's Version for the first time with all of you was so much fun. But now that I've sat with it a bit and gotten to know the ghosts, here is my album review and genre deconstruction of 1989 Taylor's Version. Welcome to New York has always been one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs. It's the perfect album opener, and the way it opens up with the drum machines and synthesizers really sets up the listener for the synth pop sounds that 1989 takes direct inspiration from. The hook is strong and catchy, and the energy of the whole track produces so much serotonin in my brain. Taylor's Version does a few things differently in comparison to the original. The harmonies are mixed differently, which initially put me off, I'll admit, but a good pair of earphones changed my opinion quickly. One thing that's easy to notice about 1989 Taylor's Version as compared to the original is that Taylor's enunciation is much clearer now as a whole. But that being said, she'll have moments on this album that were very clearly enunciated in the original version of 1989 that aren't so enunciated anymore. It makes both of the albums feel very distinct, which makes sense because they're two separate sets of recordings. The Taylor's Version recordings are not going to be 100% the same as the originals, but they're close, and that's kind of the point. After a few more listens, Welcome to New York Taylor's Version began to really fill me with all the joy that it did back in 2014 when I was just a little barista at Starbucks. At its root, it's about new chapters and fresh beginnings in an exciting environment, which is part of the reason this is the perfect album opener, considering the standard edition of Red leaves off with the song Begin Again, where Taylor as the protagonist is just starting to open up to the idea of new beginnings. The story continues, and I just love that that feeling is so well captured in this song. Speaking of Starbucks, Blank Space Taylor's Version hits all the marks. Her voice may be a little bit older, but she nails all those tiny inflections and the emphasis on certain words that feels just like the original. It uses a drum machine and more synthesizers to give this bouncy pop feel that doesn't necessarily feel directly like 80s synth pop as we know it today, given music's retro nostalgia sound over the last few years of the 2020s decade. But that inspiration is not invisible in its production either. On the original version of 1989, Taylor worked with pop masters Max Martin and Shellback. However, on Taylor's Version, Shellback is only listed as a producer on Wildest Dreams, which means, again, the productions are not going to be exactly a one-to-one comparison. Remember that in a minute. That being said, Blank Space Taylor's Version, which is arguably one of the most iconic moments of the era, sounds excellent. Christopher Rowe, Sam Holland, and Taylor did a great job recreating it, even though I could tell right away that long list of ex-lovers is much more enunciated in Taylor's version. She was not gonna have that misheard this time. Now a quick shout out to this video sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid is a leader for independent musicians and artists, helping people like you and me get our music up on places like TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and more. For one small yearly price, you can drop as much music as you want, and depending on which plan you feel is the right fit for you, you'll also gain access to a ton of additional features aimed at helping you promote, manage, and exponentially grow your music career. One of these invaluable tools is called Mixia. Mixia is mastering made easy and affordable. If you don't know, mastering is the last stage in finalizing a recording called the master recording, aka what Taylor had stolen from her. Anyway, with Mixia, you'll no longer need to hire a mastering agent. You can determine what sounds best for you. Simply upload your track and begin playing around with different intensity settings. You can figure out how you want your master recording to be EQ'd and get your song sounding the best it can be while still being budget friendly. So use my special VIP link to save yourself 7% on your first year's membership with DistroKid. Link is in the description. Okay, let's just address the elephant in the room right away. Style, Taylor's version, sounds different from the original. It's not produced by Max Martin and Shellback, so their pop magic is not on this recording. But it's still magical. I hard disagree with the people who are trying to make this out to be the worst recording they have ever heard in their entire life. I really don't think it's that bad. Style is undoubtedly a fan favorite, only emphasized by the Eras tour. So expectations for this song from fans who have loved it since their childhood or high school years was pretty high. I totally get why some of you are disappointed, and I have heard all of the videos and the complaints. I see your points. Style is a rolling bassline, wide-feeling love song with a gorgeous melody, shimmering hook that only gets stronger as the song progresses and circles back on itself. But all of those things are still present in Taylor's version. It's really not that different from the live version we see every week on the Eras tour. And yes, the opening guitar does feel a little bit different in the way that it's mixed. I understand why that is off-putting for some fans, but it's still got all the downlifters. She's still got all the same inflections in her voice. And I know I'm in the minority here, but I do feel that she did a pretty good job bringing some of the original nuances into Taylor's version. Would I have absolutely loved for her to work with Max Martin and Shellback again on this track? Yes, I absolutely would. I will never turn down a Taylor Swift, Max Martin, and Shellback collaboration, okay? Because it brought us 1989. But that's not what we got. I know that Max Martin has a lot of rules when working with him, involving singles, writing credits, and negotiations. I've never worked with him myself, although I would love to one day, but he's the #1 go-to pop songwriter for a reason. I do think that in Style, Taylor's version, the second and third choruses are a bit stronger than the first one, but to me, it still feels just as fantastic as the 2014 version. Again, maybe it's just me, John, party of one, but I really do like it. When I review K-pop albums, I typically hone in on melodies, rhythms, productions, occasionally lyrics, etc., usually because the focuses are very different. When I review albums from Western artists, especially with Taylor Swift, I look for all of that and more. Taylor Swift is a storyteller through her music, and she has now given us at least 3 other songs expanding on the story of Out of the Woods in the forms of I Wish You Would, Question, and Is It Over Now, which we will discuss later. It's not my business to speculate about an artist's personal life, because at the end of the day, I don't know Taylor personally, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't be sharing her personal life online. But I will say that clearly, this event in her life had a profound effect on her if she's still writing about it. At its core, 1989 is filled with uncertainty and anxiety, which gets masked by bright pop melodies, bubbly productions, crying on the dance floor beats, all of which ultimately acts as kind of a coping mechanism. If Taylor, as the protagonist in her music, attempts to hide her real emotions without necessarily shying away from them, then people, as listeners, will ultimately get caught up in the synth pop, dance pop, and electro pop hooks without necessarily diving too much into her personal life unless you're a diehard Swiftie. At least, maybe that was her intention back in 2014. Out of the Woods is unbridled anxiety. I have always marked it consistently as one of my top 10 favorite Taylor Swift songs of all time. And even though I didn't think it was possible, Taylor's version made me love it even more. It is cinematic, big, booming, and that chorus is a masterclass in how to mimic the emotions in your lyrics into your production, even though I understand that Taylor wrote the lyrics after the production was made. That combination should still not be ignored. For those of you who don't struggle with anxiety, one symptom of an anxiety attack is racing thoughts. They don't necessarily make sense per se, and you can logic them away all you want, but your brain will ultimately win out, or your body will. But the same things kind of repeat over and over in your brain, and it makes you start guessing fact from fiction. At least it does for some people. Not everyone has that symptom. Sometimes anxiety looks like just like this. So it's different for everyone. Out of the Woods, Taylor's version, especially from the bridge onward, takes this experience and amplifies it. The melody and background vocals soar. The beat comes in really fast. The volume gets louder, mimicking how your body tenses up as these thoughts just keep going. And her ad-libs in the background act as this occasional moment of clarity. Out of the Woods is so well done for the emotion and feeling that it is trying to portray and mimic, that it is such a shame people write it off constantly for being, quote, too repetitive. And they've been saying that since 2014, which always makes me laugh because Taylor has other songs in her discography that are super repetitive. Delicate, for example, is basically, is it cool that I said all that? Is it chill that you're in my head? Because I know that it's delicate. Isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? Nobody says that about Delicate. It's only about Out of the Woods. Are we out of the woods yet? Repeats several times because she's in a state of questioning. Are we good now? What are we doing? Are we at the point where we can finally relax and enjoy each other and be strong in our relationship? And now, in the context of 3 other songs, 2 of which we'll talk about in a minute, Out of the Woods feels like even more an origin story. 1989 doesn't have a title track, but if it did, it would be Out of the Woods, because no other song on this record, except maybe Is It Over Now, defines the anxiety that is laced on so many of the other songs on this record. Because another symptom of having anxiety is trying to hide the fact that you have anxiety or you are experiencing an anxiety attack. So Out of the Woods is the origin story, a constant state of uncertainty with someone you just want to find solid ground with. I could go on, but I think you get my point. If you are a producer or a lyricist, do not write the repetition in Out of the Woods as just a silly pop hook. It is there on purpose. And especially on Out of the Woods Taylor's version, this is an example of getting it right. So to everyone out there who hates Out of the Woods, I said what I said and I don't take it back. When I think of early 2010s dance pop, I picture something like All You Had to Do Was Stay or How You Get the Girl. They rely on a simple verse-chorus form. The chorus soars with rising melodies, chords, and regardless of subject matter or lyrics, the song itself still possesses a certain brightness. The Shellback and Max Martin magic of repeatable hooks and post-choruses that just get stuck in the listener's head very easily. That's usually what I picture. I have seen several Swifties consistently rank All You Had to Do Was Stay as like her worst track 5. And I get it. It's not necessarily as deep as All Too Well or You're on Your Own Kid. It doesn't necessarily promote long discussions like Tolerate It or My Tears Ricochet, but I would argue that's kind of the point. 1989 is considered by many to be a pop Bible for many reasons. One of which being is that its subject matter is layered under infectious melodies that promotes escapism and thought concurrently. The more you listen to its bops, the more you start to hear its story. All You Had to Do Was Stay is supposed to be simple, to drive home the point of its lyrics. If the person had stayed with the protagonist, everything would be fine and the song wouldn't exist. It's literally that simple. Its simplistic design is what makes the song so poignant. Taylor is annoyed on this song. She mapped out the answer very quickly and clearly for this person. Like, what are they not getting, you know? Anyway, I think Taylor's version matches the original very well, and it's just as hooky as ever. I was initially worried about how Shake It Off would sound because this song and Blank Space are arguably the pillars and icons of this album and most well-known songs from 1989 outside of the Swiftie community, as much as fans love Style and New Romantics. There is a reason Shake It Off went viral and has over 3 billion views on YouTube. This is the song where Taylor said she was officially a pop star. Luckily, she nailed Taylor's version. It's got her playfulness, it's got her vocal inflections, the dance pop beat and production hits just like it used to. The little background laughs give it so much more life. No notes, this is a dance pop classic. I Wish You Would Taylor's version feels even more 80s than the original, with that crunchy snare and mature voice. It brings to mind Janet Jackson's What Have You Done For Me Lately at a much higher tempo and modern song structure. Again, we've got the combo of synth pop and dance pop to create this memorable B-side. Taylor also recently confirmed that I Wish You Would and Out of the Woods are like sister songs in a recent Tumblr voice memo, which, by the way, the fact that she gave exclusive content to Tumblr is just such a nostalgic thing for her to do with this album, since Taylor definitely was a Tumblr girl back in 2014. Again, on the surface, we've got a pop banger, but underneath it, the lyrics are kind of anxious and uncertain. The constant state of questioning is simplified for production, but the emotion is still there. Luckily, that combination makes for a great track. Bad Blood, Taylor's version, is pretty close to the original in the best of ways. When 1989 first came out, one of the criticisms Taylor was consistently fighting was that she, quote, couldn't sing. This is partially why on the 13 main tracks of 1989, you hear more of her belts, high notes, growls, riffs, etc. 1989 was Taylor's first official venture into pop, and she was all about proving herself, vocally being one of the main components to that. As I've already stated, there is a lot of anxiety-related subtext within the larger body of 1989, and Bad Blood is no exception to this. The Kendrick Lamar remix, which I'm so glad we got, even though I don't love that it's a digital deluxe bonus and the deluxe is only one extra song, it's still nice to have. Kendrick's verses in this song also echo this anxiety subtext. Yes, the song is about a friendship or relationship that turns sour, but the quote, "scars on my back from your knife" lyric plus angst in her vocals, which she mimics wonderfully in Taylor's version, creates a sense of frustration, longing, still wanting them to take ownership for stabbing Taylor as the protagonist in the back. When trust is ruined between people, there is often a sense of uncertainty that follows. If you can't trust this person, who can you trust? Taylor's version recreates this well. Even though I still think a "hey stop, she wasn't doing anything" remix would have been a great addition to the end of the track list. I'm not going to say much about this song because we've had it for 2 years, but I will say that the cinematic lift Taylor's version brings to this song is magical. Hearing it in its natural context of the track list makes it even more special. Shellback is a god-tier pop producer, and I wish he would have brought his magic to some of the other tracks on 1989 because his touch is part of what makes Wildest Dreams, Taylor's version, such a moment on this album. Absolutely no notes. Another pop perfection entry on 1989. That chorus is so early 2010s pop confection, and I eat it up every single time. Taylor's version lifts and downshifts in all the ways that made the original such a pop banger. The guitar towards the end seems to breathe in some new life, and it's songs like this one that make hearing all of the Taylor's versions just so much fun. We don't really hear Taylor perform How You Get the Girl very often, like on tours and stuff, so getting to re-experience some of these B-sides just makes them memorable all over again. It's nostalgic, but it's also a new recording to listen to, and that's just fantastic. This Love is one of the songs that Taylor has written entirely by herself. We've also had this track for a while, so I'm just gonna say that it, like Wildest Dreams, is even more magical now in its natural tracklist placement. While its lyrics still detail some of the anxiety of loving someone enough to let them go, and then learning how to trust how that will come back to you, it's also kind of a reprieve from the anxiety too. And that rise when This Love echoes just before the bridge is just a moment that moves you. Taylor absolutely nailed this one. When I first heard I Know Places Taylor's version on the live stream, I initially wasn't a huge fan, except for that fantastic growl just before the second chorus, which I instantly gave her bonus points for. But I will admit that I have really changed my mind the more I've listened to it. Her vocal opening is quite a bit different to the original. It's a fuzzy tape recorder sound that actually really does add to the production. Some of her vocals in the chorus, especially the first one, are mixed a little bit different, but throughout the rest of the production, I do like that she highlighted some of those background vocals because collectively it makes it feel really cool. I Know Places has always been a bit of a funky entry on 1989, and Taylor's version almost registers it as its own thing, as opposed to like a re-recording. Kind of similar to the changes made between Girl at Home on Red and Red Taylor's version. They're definitely the same song, but the productions are different enough to make them kind of their own variations and entities. I really do enjoy I Know Places Taylor's version because nothing on this record quite shows her growth and maturity like this one does. Clean, like Out of the Woods, is one of my all-time favorite Taylor Swift songs, as it's just a beautiful song, and similar to Out of the Woods, it's one I relate to. Taylor's version of the song is a masterpiece, and it gives me the same satisfaction I felt when I heard Begin Again, Taylor's version. Begin Again is my favorite Taylor Swift song of all time. Doing this track again with Imogen Heap was the right call, and keeping Imogen's vocals in the background and her instrumentation just made me so happy. I love Jack Antonoff, I really do, but Clean is Taylor and Imogen's song through and through. Their combination is as gorgeous as ever. Clean is the album closer for a reason. Albums are a body of work and tell a story. I'll say it time and time again. It is worth your time to experience an album as a full body of work from top to bottom, in order, because it's an auditory journey that should make you feel something. Bonus tracks are bonus tracks for a reason. 1989 Taylor's version consists of essentially 3 different acts. The 13 main songs on the album, the bonus songs that kind of work with the 13 main ones, but also kind of don't, and the vault songs, which got left off the original album completely. Clean is the album's finale because it is the closure to that fragile state of anxiety across the 13 main tracks. Remember that when we discuss the vault songs in a bit. The lyrics of Clean don't say that she's happy and perfect now. They instead depict a moment when the protagonist is just now reaching acceptance that this relationship or period of time is over, and they can begin to find peace with that sort of uncertain, certain answer, which is why Is It Over Now, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is a very important piece to the story of 1989 and this overall period of Taylor's life. When you think about just how anxious she was back then, it's really no wonder that when she got canceled off the internet in 2016, she just ran away and hid for over a year and just didn't deal with anything. Girl needed to regroup in safety. Anyway, Clean, Taylor's version, is stunning, and I could not be more pleased with it. Wonderland, Taylor's version, is a fantastic recording. It opens the bonus track leg of the album, and its lyrics again detail a relationship where the antagonist strays and looks for something better, even though what they had with Taylor as the protagonist was really good. Ultimately, that push and pull ruined the relationship, and Taylor uses allusions to Alice in Wonderland to create an image of that confusion. This song has very high peaks in energy and very low lows in energy in order to mimic that push and pull and amplify that Alice in Wonderland imagery. It's a stellar pop track from start to finish. You Are in Love has always been a sweet moment on 1989 as a whole because it's another sigh of relief. It's a moment of reprieve from the hard-hitting pop bangers and up and down emotion, which is exactly the point of the song. Taylor's version feels even more gorgeous than the original. Maybe it's the maturity in her voice or the mixing and production, but there's just something special about it that makes it akin to songs like This Love and Wildest Dreams. The synth pop influence and pads in the chorus give it a dreamlike, euphoric atmosphere that amplifies its idealistic lyrics. It's well done and a fabulous re-recording. I know for a damn fact that when this album came out, y'all ran straight for Slut, Style, and New Romantics, 2 of which you hated according to the comment sections on TikTok and YouTube. So now let's talk honestly about New Romantics for a minute. I have listened to this song on my high quality studio monitors, my CD player, my car stereo, my AirPods, my vinyl record player, my computer speakers, and I still don't think this song is that bad. What some of you are hearing with the ahs in the background is what I originally heard back in 2014 with New Romantics, and is exactly why, I will admit, I wasn't a huge fan of this song. Surprising, I know, because it's a bop. Don't worry, I've already admitted fault for that and paid jail time for it. New Romantics is 100% a bop. I was wrong, I can admit it, okay? Yes, even Taylor's version, just like Style, its production is definitely different. Let's not lie to ourselves here. Especially in the first chorus, which is definitely turning off a lot of people to it. The drums are more 80s, and the way she sings Baby We're the New Romantics is a bit softer than the on the beat, I've got something to prove style she did in the original. However, just like style, in the second post-chorus, it's very much like the original. The ad-libs, so come on, come along with me, and some of her other ad-libs in the background are definitely more pronounced in this version. So yes, there are 100% obvious differences. Is it really that bad though? I don't think so. New Romantics is still the new wave anthem that it always was. It's a young adult celebration of the ups and downs of your mid-20s. So even if I'm one of the few people that actually likes New Romantics Taylor's version, doesn't stop the song from still being a certified banger. All right. We've approached the vault songs, so I'm just gonna say this right now. All of them are great and add so much context to the completed image of 1989. Taylor turning the word slut into a love song is something we all should have expected, but nobody saw coming. But that's part of what makes Taylor such an excellent writer. The ability to twist common phrases and create something unexpected and still get people talking is great. The lyrics take on the slut shaming that Taylor and unfortunately women in general face all the time and confronts it, but also turns it into a positive. How she did that? We'll never know. That's big brain energy. In the lyrics, she says by dating this person that everybody wants, she'll probably pay the price for it and he won't because people always blame the woman because people are stupid and it shouldn't be that way. But she likes him enough to kind of not care about that anymore. Taylor spoke a lot about sexism and slut shaming back in 2014 and 2015, so it's really unsurprising that she wrote a song trying to reclaim the word. I mean, to be in a place where you are so used to being called something and degraded for just being around a person that you just become indifferent to it, and then you turn that into this kind of sweet romance song is quite impressive. Taylor said that when finalizing the track list, it came down to Slut and Blank Space. And while I do love this song, I think she made the correct choice choosing Blank Space. But it's really cool that we get to live in a world where we get both now, because I don't think people would have been open to hearing what she was actually saying in the song back then the way that they are now, which is good. That means people are learning, even if it's small steps. It's a mid-tempo, dreamy 80s pop song and fits nicely as a bonus addition to this album. Diane Warren is a songwriting goddess, and I have always wondered why Taylor Swift and Diane Warren never collabed, and now we know that they did. It just didn't make the original album. Say Don't Go is obviously one of the strongest vault tracks on 1989 Taylor's version. It has super sad lyrics, but a fantastic beat and production. It shares a lot of similarities with Clean, but it really is fantastic. Again, we've got a story of Taylor wanting to be with someone who doesn't really want to be with her in the same way. It's more of that questioning anxiety, which is why this track is perfect for 1989. I'm Yours But You're Not Mine is so simple, but so sad. It's a pop banger, of course, where its 80s influence is highlighted and just creates this synth pop and new wave inspired track. I imagine that those who swore by style will now swear by Say Don't Go. And furthermore, I hard disagree with anyone that says this song is too long. If you're one of those people who thinks a 4.5 minute song is too long, I never want to hear you listen to All Too Well 10-minute version ever again. I can't revoke your right to do that, but I'm revoking your right to do that. You understand. Say Don't Go is perfect in length and story, and if you don't believe me, listen to it again. For being Taylor's shortest song ever, Now That We Don't Talk certainly packs a punch. It's very 80s, and like the rest of the vault, could sonically fit very nicely on Midnights. I love Taylor leaning into her alto register on these songs. I do wish that there was a final chorus on this song, but that cutoff kind of mimics the cutoff of communication depicted in the lyrics. So it works. It's just that hook with I called my mom, she said to get it off your chest is so good. I want more. It really is a great track though. Sick beat, clever lyrics, totally 1989. Suburban Legends is, again, Not the song I thought it would be, but it's still a bop. A retro nostalgic track with more sad subtext and lyrics. This song reminds me of Mastermind, albeit the story is less positive. While definitely a bop, I still don't think it would have matched the original 1989 if we're being honest. She had a very specific checklist for 1989. Vocals, pop bangers, story, lyrics, etc. And all of that got checked with everything we got. Suburban Legends, again, depicts being in love with somebody who's not really in love with you, and that has been discussed several times at this point. I'm not saying it doesn't add anything to 1989. We still got another shimmering bop with descriptive lyrics and metaphors. I'm not complaining. It's a great track. I'm just saying I understand why it was not selected for the OG 1989. Still good though. This is the best vault song on 1989 Taylor's version. I said what I said and I don't take it back. This song is everything I love about the vault song concept and the re-recording project as a whole. Is It Over Now is a hit on its own. It adds much more context to the album as a whole. Its lyrics are fantastic. Its melody is catchy. This song is a much less ambiguous version of Out of the Woods, I Wish You Would in question, and it really puts you in the headspace of where Taylor was when she wrote 1989. And I love when we get these vault songs that do that. It is a crime that this song did not make the original 1989, because Is It Over Now is just that powerful.
You're making me feel like I'm the band.
To me, this song hits like All Too Well 10-minute version did when we first heard it. It is gut punching and also really makes you understand why Taylor was so uncertain and anxious at this time. In spite of how determined she was to make a coherent pop album, which obviously she absolutely succeeded in, it's kind of nice that because of this song, people are now going back to Out of the Woods and really starting to appreciate it. Like I said before, if anything defines the true story of 1989, which is fighting anxiety underneath the pop shimmer, it's Out of the Woods and Is It Over Now. You get all the pop confection, which was part of the point of making 1989, but it also makes you stop and listen, which is part of the point Taylor was trying to make back in 2014. Pop music can have depth. I really hope we get a music video for the song, even if it comes later. But even if we don't, it's strong enough without one, which is just another reason it's such a shame we didn't get it even as a bonus track on 1989. But at least we have it now, though. The cursed Target exclusive edition track that plagues every Taylor album, minus Reputation as of right now. And this time made even more exclusive by only being available on vinyl. Luckily, it's a good track and it's worth the purchase. Sweeter Than Fiction was the new wave introduction to the 1989 era, released a year before we even got the album. It's the first song she and Jack produced together, and while I wish it was on streaming because it's such a good song, if it has to be this exclusive Target edition song, it's a great one to be a Target exclusive. Taylor's version is just as beautiful as the original. Sweeter Than Fiction is a nice little OST throwback. It's super fun and a great way to officially end 1989 Taylor's version. 1989 Taylor's version makes its inspirations and influences very clear right from the get-go because Taylor's motives were very clear. There may not be a gigantic list of genre influences on this record like some of the other albums I've reviewed in the past, but regardless, here's how I'd break it down. I'd obviously say its umbrella genre is pop. Umbrella genres are broad and Taylor has repeatedly specified 1989 is her first pop album, so this shouldn't shock anyone. Its subgenre is going to be bubblegum. Taylor is no stranger to writing an infectious hook that gets stuck in your head, but partnering with Max Martin and Shellback provided confectionery melodies you won't be able to get out of your head even if you try. Its niche is going to be, again, unsurprisingly, synth pop. Late 80s synth pop revolves around synthesizers, crunchy snares, and top 40 hooky melodies, and a majority of the tracks take inspiration from this sound. I would put its micro niche as dream pop, and this is how Taylor's version differs from the original 1989. The production variations, modern updates, and vault songs create a larger context to work with and pull from, dream pop places an emphasis on atmosphere, and while 1989 at its core is a pop masterpiece, the Midnight-style additions give Taylor's version a whole new layer of depth, giving us a synth-pop album with heavy influences of electropop, new wave, and soft rock, utilizing top 40 bubblegum melody techniques in conjunction with dream pop productions to create a retro-nostalgic atmosphere to highlight the complexity of its lyrics and story. 1989 Taylor's version may contain enough variations to nearly register it as a new body of work, but everything we love about the essence of its pop Bible status remains on this album stronger than ever. If you've been missing those bright pop bangers from the mid-2010s, but also kind of dig the retro nostalgic sound of 2020's pop, then this album is for you. 1989 and Reputation are my favorite Taylor Swift albums. Reinventing and reclaiming one of her most iconic albums, I cannot wait to see the world react when its sister record finally takes the globe by storm and get the credit that it rightfully deserved several years ago, as Taylor continues to reign as certified music icon.